I haven't updated. Mine says 27.
Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds, hanging out with these nerds. We got Nerdarchy Ted in the house, and we have Jim Davis of WebDM hanging out with us. He's always in the chat, so I was like, you might as well come to this side of this feed.
I mean, it's like usually you guys go live like right before or during my lunch hour, so it's like, might as well like use half my battery checking out the live chat, see who's there, and it's how I get my gaming news most of the time now, is watching you guys. I'm like, oh, that's a Kickstarter I could get in on.
We're slowly but surely draining Jim Davis's wallet more.
Yes, exactly.
I don't know, with all the Kickstarters that we have going on right now, I don't know how much that's slowly. It depends upon whether you're into like dice towers or minis. There is just way too much stuff out there.
And they're all going to end in mid-January, right? So you've already got the holiday season bleeding you dry, and then like January is usually your month to recover, and then all those Kickstarters are going to go in mid-January, and those charges are going to go through. So, well, I'm bracing myself for it.
The Creature Codex will hit, end of this month.
Yeah, the Creature Codex that was pretty sweet watching it in just 4 or 5 hours get fully funded.
I think it funded in an hour or two, and then it doubled.
Yeah,
in within 4 hours or something ridiculous.
It was somewhere between 2 and 2.5 hours, because Dan Dillon and Robert Aducci were like kind of talking all about it all over social media.
Yeah. I'm excited for what's the Jetpack 7 one, Masters and Minions.
Yeah.
I think I saw you guys had them on maybe a couple days ago or something. I'm really excited about that one. I like their gods and goddesses. So if you haven't checked it out, you guys should, if you're in the chat, go check them out. It's they're a good little company to support. And I don't know, like, I just remember the days of 3rd edition where there was so much crap, and just like, you'd go to the store and there'd be a wall of garbage for Dungeons and Dragons. You'd have to just kind of sift through it. But I feel like with 5th edition, everybody that's in the game is like top notch.
Well, there's a lot of those companies that really cut their teeth with 3rd edition.
Yeah.
And so they've really had time to kind of grow into the publishing side of things. And then even like Jetpack 7, brand new company, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they've been working with Wizards of the Coast forever.
Yeah.
And doing art and stuff. So now with their other company, Concept Chocolates or something, they've even done the art on the GI Joes. Like the coolest thing when Aaron is on is that wall of GI Joes behind him, and talking to him, he's like, yeah, I'm still a little bit in awe of the fact that that's our art on there.
That's pretty sweet.
So we got a comment from
my end, you guys. So I'll try to keep it. What were you gonna say, Ted?
I said we got a comment from Josh that says, his favorite YouTube people, all in one place.
Oh, nice. Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure and an honor to be that. I don't know. I'm really loving Saber Dice, Dave. I'm still like new to the streaming world and like playing online for an audience, but Saber Dice has been pretty fun. I really liked season 1. I hope we get to return to the world, and I also want to see everybody else take a seat in the DM's chair. Maybe we can get Pruitt in there.
Maybe, man. I to be honest with you, I'm a little intimidated to run on that game.
Oh yeah.
The digital tabletop, man, is something I've just not messed with from the DM's chair.
Oh yeah. It's definitely a doozy. I really like it now, like having used it so much, and I used it in my home game as well. So we were like running it in Saber Dice, using Fantasy Grounds there, and then I'd hop on Sundays running Maze of the Blue Medusa. And I was just, the rest of my group is back in Texas. And so it's just like, it's much easier to just fire up Fantasy Grounds and use it for the game. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure like anything, once you get used to it, it's just another thing. When I run my online games now, I literally just have D&D Beyond open. I have it open to maybe a couple of tabs I think I'm going to need to reference.
Yeah.
If not, I can search something real quick. But Fantasy Grounds is kind of very much similar. I'm also concerned about my computer being able to handle it. Gives me a hard time just running as a player sometimes.
Right. Yeah, you have to have so many more books open, and you get like the full map. Of course, those maps I threw at you guys were quite large. I didn't. Some of them were like, I'm gonna see if I can't push the boundaries, make sure I don't completely crash Dave's computer with this map.
Yeah. Your maps just would not open on my computer for whatever reason. I think they're just too big.
Yeah, some of them were quite large.
So we actually have a question in the chat for Jim. It's from Zareth Gaming. Hey Jim, I'm starting a Dragonlance 5e campaign in the future. Any advice on running a Dragonlance 5e campaign?
Well, I'm curious if you're going to be using any of the modules that they had for Dragonlance, or if it's just like the setting and you're doing your own thing. If you're running the modules or anything like it, my advice would be to ditch the rails and just let the players live in this world for a while. Otherwise, I would play up the unique parts of Dragonlance, right? Like the knightly orders, the high wizardry. Like those are the things that separate it from other kind of high fantasy settings and give it that unique spin, right? There's the minotaurs that from wherever Taladas or wherever they are in the world. So yeah, doing your own thing. I would say really try to play up those things about the setting that make it unique to itself, and not necessarily just like, oh, it's any other old fantasy setting, but with Dragonlance names. Maybe use like Lord Soth or something as the big bad. That could be really fun. That's kind of the top of my head advice.
Party of Kenders. That's the only way to go. Is a party of
Kenders and gully dwarves and tinker gnomes. Yeah, just do that. I think that sounds great. And you just play like a band of roving pickpockets.
To this day, I think Flint the King might be my favorite Dragonlance book.
See, I liked the ones where Raistlin and what's his name, Caramon, traveled back in time, and then it's because you get to read about what's his name, Fiston Dantalus. They're the big wizard from the setting. I like those. I don't remember much about King Flint though.
He gets kidnapped by gully dwarves to be their king.
That was your favorite novel, right, Dave, in Dragonlance?
Yeah, it was definitely one of my favorites. I didn't read a lot of the twin stuff. I read like everything else.
Yeah, I read like all the stuff with the twins, and then of course all of the Dragons of X. You know, up until the point where like it's only Tasselhoff left, and he's like he knows fear, and so he's just this small vulnerable thing. But there's a gemstone of some kind. Like and then of course the ones that were annotated by the authors. I used to love Dragonlance when I was a kid. I was reading them before I played D&D in many ways.
Yeah, I kind of like fell into both at the same time. Kaz the Minotaur, yeah, Kaz the Minotaur was great, along with Huma and those books as well. You know, I naturally gravitated towards anything with the Minotaurs in it. I think the Taladas, I think that was a separate campaign setting, where they did have Minotaurs there, but then they also had those like friggin' badass death gnomes.
Oh yes.
And they were at war with some like these fire creatures. I don't even remember. Like they needed special boats to sail to go to war with them, so they could fucking fight on this sea of lava.
Yeah, it got weird later on. I felt like I liked the what I love about Dragonlance is like before the invasion of the knights and the return of whatever her name is, Takasis, and the actual invasion of the dragons. It's like this idyllic, you know, knights in shining armor and princesses in towers, and it's like a saccharine sweet kind of fantasy setting, and the elves are living their idealized lives over here, and like, yeah, there's no clerical magic, but everything seems fine. And then like fucking dragons come in and burn it all to the ground, and it's just like, it's, if you think about it, it'd be disastrous to have to live through. And that's what I really like about the Dragonlance setting. I don't think we'll ever see official 5th edition update for it though.
I thought I saw rumors saying that Merles wanted to do all of them. Now I don't know if it's true.
Man,
there's a question in the chat that says, you know, do you believe in the rumors that there's going to be a Dragonlance movie?
That's from Aaron. Hey, what's up, Aaron?
I mean, sure. I can see that, right? Like next to the Forgotten Realms, they have some of like the strongest novels to draw on. So there's like a lot of there's a lot of like prepackaged lore there, and it seems like that what Hollywood likes these days is they like to they want to buy your expanded universe, right? Like you want to get in on the IP. So it doesn't matter what actor is in the position. We got Drist. Doesn't matter who plays him. We got Drist. Doesn't matter who plays him. We got Sturm and Tasselhoff and Tanis and all the others. So I can see that. But
I had Dragonlance kind of ruined for me.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the guy we used to game with, he was such a huge Raceland fan, and you know, he talked him up, and I finally said, okay, you know, I've been reading all this Forgotten Realms. Let me go start Dragonlance, and I read, you know, the original, you know, trilogy.
Yeah,
and Raceland was kind of a whiny pansy throughout that trilogy, and I'm like,
really is.
how is this guy good? And it's not till the later books, but there was so much hype on it. Like, I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna go back to reading the other stuff. This really isn't for me.
Yeah.
And you know, it's my loss because I know there's good stuff out there, you know, outside of that initial trilogy. My wife has read, you know, loads of Dragonlance stuff, and she likes it as well. You know, is what, you know, Dave says and other people that I've talked to, but it's just never been enough to interest me and go read more.
Never clicked for me. I was the same way with Drist. I liked like the whichever one where it's like it's talking about his family and then escaping from Menza Branson.
Yeah,
the
Homeland
Exile Sojourn.
Okay, those are the three I really liked because I just like drow shit. I don't care. I just like drow shit. I'm sorry. I'm not even sorry about that. I'm fine with the drow. I love them. So I that's why I liked it. But once it started getting into like he's on the surface and is it like will they, won't they with Canterbury and then by the time what's his name Wolfgar was in the abyss with just like I'm done. I just can't do it anymore. Please don't do that. And that sucks because like Pruitt was huge into those books, and I felt
you know why he did that whole thing with Wolfgar, right?
No.
Well, when he initially wrote the Icewind Dale trilogy, you know, he wrote it as Wolfgar was the main character.
Okay.
And everyone fell in love with Drizzt, so everything kind of got focused on him. Gotcha. So he's like, well, how can I re-envision this guy? How can I do more with him to kind of give him some more, you know, center stage? Yeah. And you know, sadly, I think he took a wrong turn. And you know, it is what it is. I read the Drizzt books for a long time. I waved the R.A. Salvatore banner as, you know, my favorite author for many years. I've got a picture of, you know, Drizzt and Gwen hanging on the wall, you know, next to the gaming table, next to, you know, my current favorite, you know, novel character, you know, Harry Dresden riding on, you know, an awesome mount.
Right.
Where he's gone, there just hasn't been enough change with Drizzt, and he's cycled the same stories over and over again. And it's like, all right, I really just can't keep going. And I don't remember the title of the last Drizzt book that I read, but I literally stopped reading mid-combat because it just wasn't keeping me. And I'm like, all right, I'm done with this. And I know there's been several novels that have been released since. I just haven't gone back to it.
Yeah. I was that way after Wolfgar came back and he was all whiny. I was like, I'm done. I was reading other things by then, and I was a big book snob about it. I'd be like, I don't have to read those trash novels over there. I'm gonna read real fantasy, and so I stopped reading like D&D novels after that. I tried reading a couple of the Eberron ones, but I just couldn't get into it. So those days are gone, but Hollywood should totally buy up the IP and make a bunch of cool movies. I think D&D would work better as a television show, though, right? Like I feel like a Dungeons and Dragons movie is not going to have enough time to like sit with the characters and have a big bad and all that other stuff.
It depends upon what you're doing with them. We've seen you know, we've seen the success of Game of Thrones. We've seen the success of Lord of the Rings. We've seen, you know, the massive industry that the MCU brings, and there's a lot that you could do with any number of D&D licensed novels and turn them into something fantastic. But the problem is that, like, anything that you look at is going to be compared to what is done at your local, gaming table. What's been done previously with the horror show of the actual D&D movie, and it's a joke. Somebody posted on Facebook like, "Hey, what's the biggest D&D parody movie that you've seen?" And my response was the D&D movie, because it was such a joke. And it's like, really? All the things that you can put forward, all the things that you can derive from, and this is what you think is going to be acceptable? This is what you think the fans are going to enjoy? Are you kidding me?
No, that was a huge...
I think they should take their cue from Of Dice and Men.
Yeah. I haven't seen any of those parody ones, like what's their
the
Dice and Men. I've seen the game, like the first Gamers movie that came out. And I passed around that DVD to like everybody I knew. I loved that one because there was, just the way they handled the absent player and the way they handled checking for it was just like a funny kind of movie. But I haven't seen any of the others. I think maybe, yeah.
I haven't gone and seen the third one yet. I haven't seen the third one yet, and that's more on me than on anything else, because it's, I can stream it on Amazon anytime that I want. It's just a matter of, remembering to do so when I have time to sit down and actually watch something.
I didn't know it was on Amazon. I got to check that out now.
Of Dice and Men, that one's not really a parody. That's actually it's comedic, but it's like a serious movie.
Yeah.
So it's really good. I just hope I would like them to take a cue from that. I think it's well put together, and you need to move. You can't just do like another fantasy movie anyway.
Yeah,
for D&D, because then it won't be D&D. It'll just be another fantasy movie.
It'll just be another fantasy movie. They need to do something. I think a setting like Eberron or maybe even Planescape would be something unique and different, and not just like a Lord of the Rings clone or something like that.
See, like you could do the original Dragonlance trilogy. You could do the Icewind Dale trilogy. I think there's enough in either of them to really stand out from what's typical. Now, you do Icewind Dale, you're gonna have to deal with a crap load of snow. I don't know how much filming they're gonna want to deal with that, because having done a little bit of film stuff, I know it can be a pain in the arse. But if you figure out, like, okay, well, this is what Lord of the Rings did, this is what Game of Thrones did, how can we be different? And honestly, build on that and figure that out, and you can really present something, and you can have your D&D isms in there. Like, ask somebody, let's search for traps or any of that kind of stuff. Like, it can be in there without it being corny or hokey. You're not going to have your, first level to third level rogue, sneaking into the wizard's tower, stealing stuff right at the beginning of the movie, because that guy's going to get nuked. Fireball's going to go off, or he's going to get, trapped in a prism of amber and never seen from again.
Well, maybe that's what needs to happen, though. Something
like that.
So Ryan Chaplin had asked the question about what is the best novel based on D&D. You guys' opinions? I'm going to go with a book that's not based on D&D.
Okay.
What is the great? It's heavily influenced by Norse mythology, and that trilogy is by Mickey Zucker-Riker.
Oh, yeah.
Last of the Renshai. Great, is a great series.
There's only a little bit of magic in that series. Man, the character fantastic.
So they want to know what our favorite dungeons, like, book that D&D sought influence from, like that, like Appendix In, or other way around.
I would look at it the other way.
Gotcha. So I think for me, my favorite one is probably it's probably the one I've read the most, which is the first Dragonlance novel. And I think I like that one because you can sometimes literally see the hit points ticking off of the characters. And you're like, oh, yep, Raceland's cast his one spell for the day. And so in that respect, I don't think it's a very good novel, but it's like iconic and classic to me. And you could hand it to somebody who's like you can hand it to like a kid and be like, you should read this. It's pretty cool, and get them hooked on fantasy literature with it.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of that stuff does not hold up.
Oh, I bet it doesn't.
Richard Knack used to be, one of my favorite authors, and he wrote a ton for TSR back in the day. And then he did his own series called The Dragon Realms.
Gotcha.
To this day, I conceptually love them, but if you go back and read it, the writing is not amazing. Like that whole genre, like it's a whole subgenre of what I consider it like fantasy junk food, Like I love reading that stuff, but they're not great literary works.
Yeah, I would recommend, like, I think Patrick Rothfuss's Name of the Wind is probably my favorite fantasy book of all time that I've ever read. It's just like oozes just awesomeness. It like makes me want to play Dungeons and Dragons. And I think, like, bottom line, we're talking about like movies, TV show, books. At the end of the day, a Dungeons and Dragons themed product should make me want to play Dungeons and Dragons. I should like finish it and then be like, all right, we got to roll some dice. Like let's gather the party and play some D&D. And like Name of the Wind was one of those, like every time I read it, I was like, I gotta play D&D right now. Like I don't know what's wrong with me. Like it's the middle of the work day. Like I gotta get this out. Yeah.
All right, so I have two recommendations that I would go for, D&D inspired books, but they're not, like Dave said, like nothing that's set in a D&D setting. So the first one is actually going back to R.A. Salvatore, and that's The Spear Wielder's Tale. And it takes Gary, who's everyday, modern guy who gets thrust into a fantasy world, and the world that he kind of gets put into, they kind of take the stereotypes of, like, say, your elf and your dwarf and put them on steroids. So you've got Kelson Vile Gil Ravagery, and you've got Gino Hammer Thrower, and they're fantastic, epitomes of elf and dwarf, and I love them. And then my other recommendation is Jim Butcher's Codex Alera. It's 6 books. It's written, it's done, and it takes you on a thrilling tale. If you are like insightful and you like trying to figure out where things are going to go, you're probably going to be able to figure out what the arc of the books are, especially if you actually look at what the titles are. But if you want to just sit down and enjoy, it's a fantastic story. I love it. I have that on audio, and I kind of go through it, at least once a year.
Who does? Do you have it like through Audible?
I actually have the CDs,
okay.
But it's read by Kate Redding.
Gotcha.
And she does a pretty good job with it.
It's probably on Audible.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so whoever reads the Dresden novels on Audible, I forget who it is. It's
James Marsters.
James Marsters, right? The guy, Spike from Buffy. It just like
Buffy.
His reading of it I want to listen to these all day long, like just have it piped into my ears while I sleep every time. It's just it's difficult for me to like read the Dresden novels now, because when I sit down to try, I'm like, this is not, I don't want my voice. Give me this other guy. So but yeah,
you just don't imagine Spike reading it to you as you're reading?
Guy Match, he's like sitting by the bed, he's in the chair reading it while I'm snuggled up.
So there's a comment in there in the chat. Sean Orwin says he wants to be able to play in the setting of Alera. I'm right there with you. I've thought a number of times, like, how would I put this together? And every time I go through it, I'm like, well, would that just be like an add-on? How would this work? You couldn't do like regular spell casting on top of these abilities. So, and then it's like, well, what things do you have access to?
It's weird. Like you would almost, like, thinking about it, you would almost want to, you'd have to remake like all the classes almost. Like and then like you have different classes with different subclasses based on what element. I don't know. Geez, it sounds like a lot of work.
I heard the magic system described as the elemental Pokemon magic.
Kinda, yeah. It's like, you could describe it as that, or like bending from Last Airbender. They all do something different with their magic and how they relate to the spirits that control it. And my favorite was the gladiator who was like the metal. What I forget what they're called in the series. The metal guy.
They're Furies, and
Furies,
you
right,
do
yeah.
Fury casting.
Right.
So like if you're a metal crafter, that means you're going to be a fantastic swordsman, and there were people who were master metal crafters because they were that good with a blade.
Yeah. So that's how I would describe it. It's pretty fun. I liked the first one well enough, but I never picked up any of the others after it.
It's a good read, or a good listen if you're into the audiobooks. I definitely recommend going into that one. But I mean, Spearwinter's Tale, it's only a trilogy, and it's been a long time since I've read that one, but I really enjoy those characters, and wish that there would be more to them.
Gotcha.
Yeah, my favorite RA books are when he does not write about Drizzt.
Yeah.
Or Drizzt, I should say.
I will always say Drizzt.
Just because it makes people mad.
To me, that's how it started.
Yeah.
That's how it started, and I refuse to bow to peer pressure or even the author.
I'll never forgive R.A. Salvatore for killing Chewbacca. He will forever be R.A. Chewie killer to me. Yes, I know that Disney got rid of the EU. I think that was a huge mistake. The EU is alive and well in my heart.
That was Vector Prime, right?
Yes, Vector Prime. I'm never going to forgive him. He could spin gold, and I would just be like, get that away from me. You killed Chewbacca. Not happening.
You're dead to me.
You want to know why? Dave and I have had conversations about this. Do you know why? We think he killed Chewbacca.
Why did he kill Chewbacca?
Because he's got this reputation that he doesn't kill people.
So
I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to kill Chewbacca to prove it.
Yeah, but he still did kill his own character. So
that's all right. That blood's on Lucas's hands as well. It just is. Nothing happened without his approval.
He checked his bank account. And he's like, I'm all right with it.
Yeah, I'm fine. But
so Keegan in the chat says that he thought he was the only one who called him Drizzt. He now feels vindicated because I refuse to bow.
Well, it's because it gets phonetically spelled in Homeland.
Right.
I mean, obviously it could be like some farmer rube, mispronouncing what he just heard. But he went through the trouble of phonetically spelling it out. So
there you go.
Yep.
And that's why our group does it. I would say, mainly because I mispronounced it first, and then they all parrot me.
And they just follow the leader.
Pretty much.
Well, because you handed me the novel, saying here, this is something you have to read. And you look at a string of letters, ZZT. What does that say? And you're like, no, you got to read the Drizzt novels. Okay, it's Drizzt.
You got to do it. That's how I was. I was like, I think probably Pruitt. Pruitt was probably the one who handed me the novels. We were all working at the same movie theater at the time, and he was like, you got to read these things. Let's see. I didn't know that Salvatore got death threats over killing Chewie. That's crazy. That's like, geez, I was just not going to read any more of his novels. That is nuts.
Well, some people really care about those fictional characters.
They sure as hell do. Good grief.
A lot of things. They really care about a lot of things.
Yes, they do. Any other questions we got in the chat? I see there's a lot of people here today.
There's a lot of chatting going on. I don't have all the stats in front of me anymore. Ted's behind the helm today.
Uh-oh.
So if it breaks, it's his fault.
Let's see. Yeah, I keep calling it shake weights instead of shape ways.
Yeah.
For one of our sponsors.
Shake weights are something completely different.
It's a very different thing.
But and every time I hear you say that, I think about the commercial for Deadpool.
Right.
So Geek and Undies has a question. Let's see what we got here. I'm about to begin an endeavor of updating the campaign setting of Birthright for my group. Did you gentlemen ever play in that world? Care to share any fond memories? I think that was one that Nate really liked. I never messed with it. That is second edition. So what that says to me is updating it's going to be super easy.
Yeah, I think like mechanically speaking, updating it would be would be really easy. I would probably lift the domain rules that were in Birthright, which are some of my favorite domain level play kind of stuff. I would just lift them straight out of the book, the second edition book, at the table, and then use them as is, and just substituting 5th edition stats and rolls and modifiers and stuff.
Well, any rule set that's kind of big and blocky works really well with 5e.
Right. Yeah, I'm a big fan of just like, come up with something half-assed and sloppy, and then it'll work itself out in play. And like, I don't really do a lot of like, I want to tinker with this until it's perfect and then present it on a platter to my players. It's like the player will go, oh, I want to play a vampire, and it's like, just figure something out, and we'll muddle through it. So that's how I would do Birthright in 5th edition. Is just like take those domain levels. Maybe I think you get something for like the whole point of it is that your characters are tied to the land or something. It's been forever since I read those books. But
I think when my players wanted to be goblins when 5th edition first came out,
yeah,
I'm like, all right, you're halflings, we're going to paint you green.
Right.
And I think, like, I don't know, I think we gave them dark vision for brave.
Gotcha.
Because like our goblins would not be brave at all.
No, they're not going to be brave. They're sneaky little bits.
Those characters are insane. They play goblins that are based off of juggalos. And I did not know what a juggalo was until I had them in my game. So like, and it's funny, like one session, the one player who's a beastmaster that rides a spider couldn't make it there. So the goblins are always getting high in game and trying to get other things and people high as well. So she couldn't make it there to play her character. So her fiance at the time is like, well, Grundle Punch, rides the spider away screaming, get the spiders off of me.
Yeah.
With the arms flailing.
The gobelos. One of them wield a hatchet.
No, they use hand crossbows.
Gotcha. All right. That's acceptable. But that's a great idea for goblins.
They in order to make the hand crossbows juggalo-esque, they hold them sideways.
Gotcha. The bolt flies. That's how they can shoot around corners.
But yeah, I'm like, let's just play. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's how anything that's like, how do I convert X from an older edition of Dungeons and Dragons into 5th edition? It's just like read the original rules and just sort of whatever.
Or my favorite is, my favorite is, how can I be a half X? Right? Yeah. I want to be a half dwarf or whatever. I'm like, well, pick human or pick dwarf and describe it however you see your character.
Yeah, just describe it. Yeah. I just don't like mechanical precision and sort of like the need to like tinker with things. It's what I didn't like about 3rd edition, and why I ultimately kind of stopped playing 4th was like that kind of precision. I like a system where you can like rough it up and do whatever you need to with it. It's not going to break. I can say let a barbarian rage when they're a great ape, and it's not gonna tear the house down or anything. Well, yeah, you will tear the house down, but it's not going to break the rules.
Yeah, that's all right. Houses can be rebuilt.
Houses can be rebuilt, absolutely.
I actually kind of feel the same way about rules too, but
yeah,
they're arbitrary.
I've seen someone ask about Dragon Quest several times, and all I know is I don't know anything about Dragon Quest, so I can't help you, Alexander Hughes. I'm sorry. Although I will ramble on about it if you give me a little bit of information.
Yeah, was that a board game or was that a tabletop setting?
I don't recall. I thought Dragon Quest was the one where you played the VHS tape, and it was like made by TSR, right? Like it was supposed to be like a separate game or something. I just remember I watched the tape and never actually played.
To be clear, we're not talking about Dragon's Lair.
Not Dragon's Lair.
Duke the Daring. I'm not familiar with that one either.
All of those things kind of paled in comparison to HeroQuest.
Oh my God.
That one, was my favorite. I've got a, whole stack of those, old board games that the boxes were destroyed from, travel and too much use. But like I would shove all of them aside, play HeroQuest, just wasn't worthwhile.
I loved
My opinion.
HeroQuest. I mean, I don't. They had all of the expansions for it, right? Like the Elf one and the Barbarian one, the one with the Witch King. There was like another one.
We all have
then,
to get together and stream playing HeroQuest now.
That would be awesome. I have a pristine copy. Like Emma got me for my birthday a couple of years ago. Got me like I don't know where she found it somewhere in the UK. Of this like pristine, all the pieces, none of the cards are bent. I was like, oh my god,
you can't find that anymore unless you're willing to drop a couple $100.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
and still fun to play.
One of the expansions, wasn't ever released US. It was only released over in Europe. So I mean, I had the purple box expansion, the red box expansion, and the base game, and I've got all the manuals and stuff, but half the minis have been, on walkabout. I may or may not have, some of the pieces, but like you can replace minis. You can always, do whatever. But
man, that game,
Alexander Hughes says you can find a PDF online if you want to flip through.
Cool.
But that might be talking about a different game. But
I
would
talk about Dragon Quest.
I would go with HeroQuest. I would, I'd play that one. We actually talked about running it through as a campaign where you had you could gain levels after completing a scenario.
Well, I don't know if it was with the base rules or not, but we played it where we used the same characters and they would accumulate gold and buy stuff. I guess that's kind of the way you're supposed to play it, but then.
Yeah,
I also ended up playing a ton of advanced HeroQuest with like the puzzle piece board.
Oh wow,
man, that game's that's a gateway drug for me. HeroQuest, it was too much.
Has the WebDM guys ever played any HeroScape?
I have a lot of their minis, but I don't. I've never actually played any HeroScape.
Oh, that game's such a blast. We used to break it out fairly often.
We the table that we game on is like 4 foot by 8 foot. It's massive, and we used to fill the entire board with this great scenario or great landscape setting, and we would play for hours.
Man,
I sunk so much money into that game; it was ridiculous.
That was the one with like the little hex terrain.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
and you would. I had that. I had that for years until I probably sold it or something. But I just looted it for the minis and never actually played it. Same with like HeroClix. I had a ton of HeroClix just because I love the minis, but I've never actually sat down and tried to play a game with it.
Jim,
I played a whole bunch of Mage Knight.
Right?
What's that?
You're a big Lego fan.
I love Lego. Yes.
Ted is also. He's a master. Ted's a master builder, whatever the fuck that means.
A certified master builder. I am a.
You did the Master Builder Academy. You bought the sets and put the things together, and
I don't.
You guys are freaking nerds.
I like the ones that are like the big townhouses. And like the big ones, the ones that are like 3,000 pieces.
Oh, geez.
Those are my
Did you ever build the massive Death Star?
I always wanted to, but I just couldn't justify the cost for all those little plastic pieces. There was a part of me that was like,
come on, it's only $400 and then you can have your own Death Star.
I was like, there was a part of it that was like, I have the instructions for it in PDF. There's that website where you can go to get all the instructions for every Lego set.
Yep.
And I was like, I was sitting there like, I bet I have all the pieces for this in buckets and boxes and bags, and I just that consumed an afternoon, and then I went on to other things.
That's great.
Yeah, that was like a couple of years ago.
Hey guys, I guess we should probably do a roll call at some point and see where everyone's coming from.
Yeah.
So while we're waiting for them to get to that, what is do you guys have a favorite episode of WebDM you guys have done?
Man,
I gotta ask before you guys get too far along, then it's gonna get really hard.
Yeah. I know that I really like our early monster shows we wrote scripts for the beginning of them, and they're sort of like a little animation at the beginning, put together some, you know, a collage of images. I like those. Maybe Beholders is one, but I'm really proud of our most recent stuff. I think Combat is War and Combat is Sport is probably my favorite. I was really worried about that one, just because it's like I've read those threads on InWorld and Giant in the Playground where that term comes up and it just devolves into massive flame wars. And I was like, but I think it's an interesting concept. I just don't want the comments to become a dumpster fire, and which they usually don't. Usually our comments are really great, and it's like fun to hang out and chat in the comments. So I think like maybe that one, or one of the ones that just never got off, like Initiative was one that I remember being like, I really want to do this and talk about a show about Initiative, but then like nobody seemed to give a shit. Like, it's like one of our least watched shows.
Well, you know, that happens. You're like, you come up with something, you're like, this is our most creative stuff ever. And no one cares.
No one cares. They want another class video or something like that.
Yeah. Tell them they shouldn't have DM player characters.
Oh man,
that'll get them going.
Yeah, I was reading y'all's comments in that last night, and there are some people who are very passionate about humiliating and beating their characters over the head with the NPCs that they have in the party.
Yeah, that part is kind of funny too. We've got like 300 comments of people explaining to us why you should have a DM player character in the party.
Yeah.
Which I found pretty funny.
I think, to me, like at best you have like an allied NPC that is there to either assist them or to like if you're playing with like brand new players, they've never played Dungeons & Dragons until like this session, they might be like, here's what a druid looks. Nobody played a druid. Here's what a druid looks like, and like this druid's gonna pal around with you for a session or two, but not like I made a full character with a backstory and everything. Like,
well, yeah, like one of my biggest takeaways from the comments was a lot of people don't even really know what an NPC is, apparently.
Yeah. Right. I think a lot of that stuff is just like DMs who really wish they were playing. And like probably a bunch of people getting together, and one of them is pressured into DMing, but they would rather be playing their character. Or like there are those groups where it's like, yeah, we round robin DM every week. It's a different DM. And so we all have characters in the game. I've never played in a group like that, but I know they're pretty common where everybody shares the load. And so everybody also has a player character as well, but not the ones who are like, yeah, I made this full character to pal around with you and be a part of the party.
From conception.
Conception. It's like, no, the best I do is like this NPC joins for a while, and most of the time is quiet in the back and may even get forgotten about unless somebody else wants to play him in combat.
I got enough things to do in combat, let alone trying to worry about an extra NPC in the party,
right? Like a full player character with all the stuff.
Yeah, like my campaign frequently has NPCs that float in and around wherever they're adventuring, but most of the time when it gets to combat, like I don't even care about what they're doing. Like they're off to the side. They're not targets. They're not aiding in any way, shape, or form unless someone specifically calls out, "Oh, can this do this or can this do that?" Much easier just to be like, "Nope, just go on. You do your thing. You guys are the heroes."
Now, usually what happens is the opposite. In my home games, what'll happen is like my brother or Pruitt will want to make a second character, like they've got character ADD. And then they're like, I played two sessions with this one, but I'm really looking at this other class, particularly when like Unearthed Arcana material was coming out like every week, and every week they're like, I made this new character. Like, hold up. Dude. So like when we were playing the Rise of Tiamat campaign, we were like running it, and I was like trying to stick with the module and like I'm gonna be a good DM and do all this. At one point there were 15 player characters, but only 4 players.
Do you remember the episode of Popeye where Popeye's driving down the road with Olive Oil and he's got blinders on her? to keep her out of the stores. Like sometimes, DM, you just need some blinders for your players. Be like, focus.
So I let them have them. But they could only play one at a time, so they'd have to like rotate out. And then it was like the Avengers. It's like, okay, Team A is going and doing this thing, and we'll do that for a couple of sessions, and then Team B will go do this other thing. It ended up being a lot of fun, but at one point I was like, okay, this is enough, guys. Like my brother had like 5 characters, and I was like, no, that's too many. Pick one.
Oh, you know what? When I listened to your halfling video this morning. I was a little disappointed you guys didn't mention Athasian halflings.
We didn't. Yeah, we forgot the cannibal halflings in Dark Sun. We forgot the dinosaur riding halflings in Eberron. Like that's the drawback. It's like the double-edged sword from doing purely impromptu shows. Is we always leave something out. Like every episode we watch. We'll sit there in the chat for that episode between the 3 of us, like, well, we forgot this, we forgot that, we forgot this, and sometimes
that's what the comments are for. Though they will absolutely remind you of what you forgot.
We had an even bigger one this week. We had so we're talking about halfling like warriors and barbarians and things, right? And Pruitt mentions that when you have a great sword and you crit on it, it does 3d6.
Yeah, he said it. I said it. I mentally said it. I'm like, he's wrong. He's wrong.
And I didn't catch it when we were filming.
Yeah.
But man, they've taken us to task for it in the comments this week. And I just have started like saying, like, yes, we're wearing our hair shirts and beating ourselves in the back for this egregious violation of rules.
He actually quoted a rule. He just misquoted the rule with. Because that's how the Great Weapon Master works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he was also playing at the time we filmed that. He was also playing 2 half-orcs in 2 separate games, and so like half-orcs have that ability of adding a single die whenever they crit, and then somebody else was like, oh, it's the brutal critical from Barbarian or something. So Pruitt's in the chat. I was wrong. I admit it. He's very upset about it. Pruitt is.
Dave, do you want to read that roll call?
I was thinking that I lost it. I moved on. Let's see. I know I saw Doug right at the top from Cleveland. Aaron Marks isn't. No, he's not anywhere. He's asking a question. Michael, Nova Scotia, Canada. He's one of our staff writers. Awesome guy. We got Detroit in the house with DH, the Hurricane. Niagara Falls representing with Bards in the Basement. OZ in the house with Raven. Poison coming to us from Kuwait. We've got Albuquerque with Morgan Bright. We've got Orlando with Slats. We've got New York, Syracuse, New York with Abe. Martin is in Indiana. We've got Jay Pruitt, or I don't know how you say his username, but it's Pruitt. It's Pruitt. I know you say you Pruitt. Austin represent. We got New York in the house with Alexander. Louisiana with Jacobs. 56 Arkansas, Josh. We got Grinland, Tampa, Florida. Minneapolis, Bill. Denver, John. Wyoming, Eric. Missouri, Ranger Roy. Frugal is coming to us from Ireland. We got Tampa, Florida with Jose. We've got Barcelona, Spain in the half with Roxafion. We got the Subways under Hunts Point, New York with Comic Book University. Be really careful there, Professor Bill, because it is ridden with supervillains. We got New Mexico in the house with Zaref. Norway with Lars. We got Washington in the house with Frigginator. We've got Vero Beach, Florida with Jeffrey. We've got PMK 108 with Aruba. We got Montreal with David. Tucker author is in Montana. Lincoln's in Sweden. We got Utah in the house with Regilio. We got Leeds, UK in the house with Drew. Eduardo is coming to us from Santa Fe, New Mexico. Lincoln, Nebraska with Michael. Aaron Marks is in Seattle. Every worldwide, baby. We got them all over the place. Guam in the house. Speaking of, with Midget Rocks. Sorry. San Jose, California with Sam Rosa. We got Modesto, California in the house with Overlord. Finland in the house with Frostglades. There's a lot of you guys in here today.
Yeah.
And I'm sure at the bottom somewhere, people have started weighing back in from where they're at.
So we have a request that Kyle joined us early, but was on his way to a funeral. So it's a request to put his name out there. That he watched some of it.
He should have just played the whole live chat at the funeral for the folks. It would be a great tribute to whoever has passed. We're sorry for your loss.
His aunt.
His aunt. Bummer. So, and by the way, guys, at some point I'm going to duck out of here quietly because I have an appointment right after this.
Gotcha. I've seen a couple of times people saying that I should join in the face rip game on Monday because Travis is going to be out for a week.
I'm totally down with that.
I think I'm down with that as well. I would be happy to make a guest appearance. I've played face rip all 3 times, so I'm an expert. And
that is 3 more sessions that I have, sir.
And I would be happy to take Travis's place for a week and play either an NPC or whoever. I tell you what, you guys make a character for me, and I'll play them.
No, you play Travis's character, who has gone through some kind of mental lapse. Doesn't remember anything that happened previously, has all kinds of strange new powers, and at the end of the episode, he'll resort back to normal.
Revert back. It's like his alternate dimension that switches places with him briefly. Yeah.
We actually did that one time. We had we had a game. Someone showed up who's in a different game, thinking that his game was running that night. And one of our players wound up not showing up. So that character wound up somehow morphing into another character. And by the end of the night, he went back to where he came from, and the regular PC who was with us, was back there, and none the wiser.
One thing I've always wanted to do and never had a chance to really is make the players fight themselves in like a mirror image kind of thing. Their evil doubles show up and then just you guys have to take on a whole party of exactly yourselves. They've got all your spells, all your equipment. Roll initiative.
I got bad news for you, folks. You're looking at yourselves, except for they have goatees, even the ladies.
All goateed out. Yes, if anyone wants to know for the face rip, I prefer Speedsters. That's my favorite type of superhero, and I also like bruisers like Hulk and Thing and things like that. So, but do what you need to do to
your evil twin thing with your evil twin comment, Dave, with the goatee and what have you, reminds me of Futurama, where the bender with the goatee was actually the good one.
Who knew we had the evil bender all along?
Right. Exactly.
Sometimes it goes that way. What are you gonna do? Speedsters are insane in Mutants and Masterminds because you can literally make at the game level that most people play at a 10. You can literally make a speedster that can circle the globe. It's amazing.
It's really nuts. The one of the few times I've played Mutants and Masterminds was a speedster, and it was like I get to act. It's like I can act 12 times this, or something like that. I remember playing a speedster in Hero, like Champions, and like with that big fat book, and it was like combat rounds are divided into segments, and I could act 12 times a round or something. It was the same way. Ever since then, I've been like, yeah, I'll take a speedster. More action, yeah, I'll take that.
The last time I played Mutants and Masterminds, I had a tech-based speedster, and he was a lot of fun to play.
I just love him. I love the Flash and Quicksilver and everything about him.
One of the last games I ran a Mutants and Masterminds, my brother made a speedster, sort of, right? So he's like, his name was Tweak, and he was like this tweaked out gizmo guy, but he had super speed. But he took it at a really low level, so he could only run it like 250 miles an hour. And in Mutants and Masterminds, at the level we were playing, I'm like, you're not really a speedster. You're just like a fast guy.
No. Until you can look at that battle grid and go, oh, that's just 15 squares or 20 squares, like whatever. Like I'll eat that for breakfast.
Like, oh, they when Lex Luthor merges with Brainiac, right? Mm-hmm. And the Flash takes him out, and he does the Mach 1 punch. Like the awesome thing about Mutants and Masterminds, you can literally duplicate that. Like
that's awesome.
maybe not the damage, but you can duplicate like the effect of running around the world and charging someone in a single round, which is like you're like that. The grid is useless. You know, you can literally travel interdimensionally. So at that point, why bother?
Yeah, it's just there for show. It's just there for show.
All right, folks, enjoy the rest of the chat. You guys have like 5 minutes or so, but I have to bail.
All right, we'll catch you later, Dave.
Looking forward to throwing some percentile dice with you, my man.
Hell yeah.
So, you know, I dig the Flash. I've never been, you know, super fond of all the Speedster, you know, things that are out there. You know, I'm watching the Flash on the CB, and
what season are you up to?
I think I'm through 3.
Oh yeah, I've only seen the first 2. I've heard questionable things about the 3rd season, and
I mean there is some things about it, but at its whole, I like the character development. I like what's going on with it, but when you have someone like the Flash, the only thing that you can really do is you can put him up against another Speedster, or you can put him up against someone who can withstand the abuse that he can do. So it creates this whole dynamic of, well, what can you actually do? But the thing that I like the most about what the show presents is what he actually does, like in his everyday life. How painstaking is it to interact with everyone when he starts to go fast? Like, he can sit there and literally think about, oh, well, do I want to stop this punch that's coming in? Do I want to come around from the other side? Do I want to try and trip him? So, like, to me, that really is that's the crux of it. I don't care about the mechanics and all that other kind of stuff. I want to get into it, like, all right, I want to play a Speedster that, like, I relish going fast and doing things, and find it painful to actually be interacting at what everyone else considers normal, because my brain is going a mile a minute. I have the ability to punch through a wall because I can go so fast. So to just reach out and slowly touch you takes all the effort in the world.
It just takes too much time. I don't know if you read Astro City. Oh man, there's a great Astro City where they're like Superman analog has a clock, like a stopwatch that he keeps for how long he gets to fly in any given day. And it's like 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 12 minutes. And he's just like, you know, I never just get to fly. I never just get to enjoy these superpowers that I have. I'm always trying to get a deadline for the newspaper I write for and go save the world another minute. And just like, I'd like to just have a day off and take a flight. I kind of see like similar parallels. Like, I'd just rather be fast. I just want to run fast. It reminds me, like, you could have a D&D class that has like infinite reactions, and they can do whatever they want with their reaction. And just like, you can cast a spell or dodge or move or whatever you want. That's how I'd do a Speedster. It'd be annoying as shit.
So, you know, you brought up Superman, and I find of the actual superheroes that are out there, I find Superman the most boring.
Oh yeah,
because he's got everything. Like, really, anything he wants to do, he can do. You know, with the speed that he has, the ability to fly, he technically is a Speedster without really being considered a Speedster.
Right. I thought he tapped into the Speed Force, like in the way that Flash does. I thought, like in the comic books at least.
Well, in the books, I don't think I've ever actually read a single Superman comic book. I've watched movies, and I've seen the animated stuff, and I just find him, you know, pretty droll because he's the Man of Steel. You know, he's not, for today's superheroes, he's too one-sided in my opinion.
He's a little much. My favorite superhero, or my favorite Superman arc, is where they bring in like this intergalactic gladiator to teach Superman how to fight. They're like, you're pulling your punches. You should have been able to kill Doomsday in like one hit. Right. Like, he shouldn't have taken you out. And that was kind of the premise of it. It's like, you got to be prepared for when this happens. And so they bring in this, like, from another dimension, this monster that's going to teach Superman how to fight. And he doesn't pull his punches anymore. And I kind of thought that way too. And so I started like reading the comics and actually sort of started to really appreciate that, like, a good Superman comic was like the drama and the tension come from all of those things that Superman's strength can't impact. Like he can't be everywhere at once. He can almost be everywhere at once, but not quite. Like I think maybe my other favorite one was where some villain just like whisked half the population of Earth off the planet. And Superman was like, well, shit. Like, what do I do now?
Well, my favorite thing with Superman, it's going to kill me because I'm not remembering the villain. But I love Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, and that's where I got the most exposure, where I actually really enjoyed what Superman did. But like, his extra planet, planetary nemesis, the one with the zigzaggy I-beams.
Oh yeah, the Darkseid, not
Darkseid. That's it.
Yeah,
he goes up against Darkseid, and they're totally in a space battle, and like Superman just does that stride up to him, and it's like, you know what, I live in a world of glass and eggshells, and everything that I do, I'm constantly holding back. But you know what? With you, I don't have to, because you can take it. And he just unloads, and they go after each other, and like. To me, that is the only moment that I'm like, all right, I dig this character. I like what's going on there. But everything else, I'm like, screw it.
Nothing happening. I like I said, I really liked Superman just eventually, but I started out in the same way. I was like, I just can't do too much. I got a couple of things I want to plug.
Absolutely. We're at that time. So why don't you, give a shout out to everything and anything that you want to shout out. And
this is a busy month for us at both for us at WebDM and then sort of for me personally. So this coming Sunday, the 10th at 4:30 Eastern, we've got a D&D December roundtable. A bunch of people from Twitter and are going to be there. So it's obviously myself, Chaotic Anarchy. From Thread Raiders, Nizul of Chaotic Good, Severick from the Plains. There's a Planescape game that runs, and then it's going to be hosted by Walking Virus Gaming. That's on the Walking Virus Twitch channel. And so we're just going to hang out, much like this. We're going to take some questions specifically about D&D 5th edition. We've already got a question list set up, but there will be a question and answer portion as well. And I always like a DM's roundtable just because it usually you can come away with at least one idea that's like, yeah, I'm going to work that into my game somehow. And then on the 16th, Pruitt and myself are going to be appearing in a charity game run by Grant Ellis. And that's the 16th from noon to 3 p.m. I don't really know where it's going to be streamed yet, probably on his Twitch channel. But we got that. And so those are like the two big projects. We might be out there. Who knows? We've got podcasts and Patreon, even though Patreon's being a bit of a pain right now with its pay structure. So we're just out there. Of course, we're on Twitter at The Real Jim Davis. That's myself. And then at WebDM Show is our other one. I don't know. I feel like we're all over the place now. And whereas like a few months ago we were still just confined to our YouTube channel, and then of course Saber Dice on Wednesdays, and I guess Marvel Face Rip this Monday.
So I think everything but the Face Rip game, the links should probably be down in the description below.
Cool.
Dave is usually good about setting all that stuff up. What is the best way if they want to reach out to you?
So the best way to reach out to me is through Twitter. My DMs are open. You can send me a private message or just at me at The Real Jim Davis. That's probably the most direct way to get in touch with me. Particularly, I know I saw some people asking some stuff in the chat here that I just, I try not to pay attention to the chat because I don't remember about the camera that's in front of me. So if you did have a question for me or an offer of some kind, just hit me up on Twitter. And I'll do my best to get back to you.
Awesome. Well, Jim, thank you so much for coming on.
Awesome.
I saw us, over 150 viewers at one point in time,
Cool.
Which is, pretty fantastic. So everybody out there in the, YouTube land, thank you for hanging out with us. And until next time, stay nerdy.